What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Kwarenteen. I do have Matt Hudson here from Direwolf Digital, the people behind Clank in Space, and several other games like Eternal, the digital versions of Lotus. The list kind of goes on and on. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you doing?
Exhausted. So first and foremost, I want to get out of the way. Gen Con 50, insane, right?
Yeah, it's been really crazy. We go to a bunch of shows every year. Gen Con is always one of our favorites because it's such a gamer crowd in a way that is near and dear to our hearts. So yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to be a part of it.
Yeah, and the number of people here. I think the last counting was 168,000. First year they've been 100% sold out. So if you can describe the madness here at this single word, what would that word be?
Wild, I think. On Thursday morning when the doors opened and, you spend all this time as an exhibitor getting set up and getting ready to go, you're kind of preparing yourself for, the initial stampede of the crowd coming in.
Yeah.
But this year, there's nothing you can do to prepare for it. It's just like trying to fight the tide, and you just kind of give yourself over and roll with it.
Oh, yeah. And one thing I've noticed, though, with how many people are here, it's fairly chill. I haven't heard about any big incidents happening, nothing like that. And when you pack this many people into such a small, and it's by no means small, but into an area like this, usually there's problems and whatnot. And there's not, and that's awesome. That kind of goes to the crowd, the type of people that are in this hobby.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's here for the same reason.
Yeah.
They're all passionate about games. And for a lot of people, it's kind of like an annual pilgrimage where you get to come out, see people you don't see for a while, play games you don't get to play every day.
Yeah.
And it's really a kind of special place. And, they call it the best 4 days in gaming, and they're not wrong.
It's true. This is actually my first year here. Bit overwhelming. I came here totally unprepared. But let's get on to the company here. I'm looking at Clank in Space. So what can you tell us about this?
So Clank is a deck building adventure, we call it. We released the original Clank game last year here at Gen Con.
Yeah.
And in Clank in Space, you play a thief trying to steal some treasures, overcome obstacles, recruit allies, find weapons, fight monsters, do all that fun stuff. And then you go to escape. And that's always the fun part. There's it kind of builds upon the traditional deck building elements with a board that involves a lot of tactical movement decisions as you have to get around. In Clank in Space, you're trying to steal from the living starship of a alien cyborg named Lord Eradicus. Very, very bad guy.
Sounds like
yeah, and you have to, sneak aboard his ship, hack your way, through these computer terminals to get to where he keeps his treasures, grab something, and then get out. The really fun part of every Clank game is that there's a sort of press your luck element where the better treasures are always deeper in the ship, deeper in the dungeon. You have to go further to get the more valuable things.
Like any good dungeon delver.
Like any good dungeon delve, but the further you go, the harder it is to get out again.
Yeah.
And in just about every game, especially with first-time players or newer players, you have this moment. There's always this turn that you can recognize where players have been having this kind of swaggering, heroic adventure, getting better, their deck's improving, they're finding all kinds of cool stuff, they're getting paid. And then they have this moment where they realize, oh man, it's getting really bad. I need to go.
Yeah.
And a lot of players have that realization a turn or two later than they probably should. So it always starts out as this very kind of like superhero adventure-y thing.
I'm going to kick open doors and take names.
Exactly. On the way in, almost always turns into this panicked scramble for the escape pods with the alien horde bearing down on you from behind and the doors closing all around you. So what starts out as this very kind of heroic journey almost always ends in this bumbling scramble. And that's one of the really fun sort of core experiences of the game.
That sounds awesome. Now, I've never played Clank. The fantasy setting just didn't really hit me too well.
Sure.
But as a lot of my viewers may probably know, I'm a sucker for sci-fi, space. I'm a big Trek nerd. Now, is this a reskinning of the original Clank and it's all the same, or are there differences with this?
There's a lot of differences in Clank in Space. It builds upon the same core mechanic, which is that we have these little wooden cubes that we call Clank. Everything you do as you move through the dungeon or you move through the starship, as you're recruiting allies, finding weapons, fighting monsters, everything you do makes noise.
Okay.
We call this noise clank. and we represent it with these little cubes. The more noise you make, the clankier you are, the more likely you are to attract the attention of some very bad things. So that sort of core experience is still the same from Clank to Clank in Space, but Clank in Space is an entirely new game.
Okay.
All new cards, there's a bunch of new mechanics. One of the things we're really excited about, the board itself is made of these double-sided modular tiles.
Oh.
So what that means is what comes in the box is not a single game board, but actually 48 different configurable game boards that you can build out of one to create all these different ships that you can explore.
That alone is awesome.
Right. You know, one of the things that we really want is for something that is really deep with lots of room to explore, a ton of replayability. You know, you could play Clank literally every day for, months, and never have the same experience. And that's one of the things that we think is really fun and really special about the game.
That's spectacular. Is there anything, when is this coming out?
So it was a surprise announcement here at Gen Con on Wednesday. The game was revealed that it existed for the first time. It went on sale on Thursday. There was such a big crowd around the Renegade Games booth, who's our co-publishing partner. It was packed shoulder to shoulder, selling hundreds of copies as soon as the doors opened. It was amazing. The rest of copies are on their way to distributors now.
Okay.
So they'll be sort of making their way into local game stores over the course of the next month or so.
Anything else with the kind of in general with Direwolf Digital that people could maybe look forward to in the future that's coming out soon, aside from, of course, Clank in Space?
Sure. I mean, we've got a ton of things going on. One of the things to keep an eye on is definitely our strategy card game called Eternal, which is available for PCs and Macs via Steam and iOS and Android phones and tablets. It's a sort of fun, six guns and sorcery, super free-to-play strategy card game that takes some of the depth of traditional tabletop card games and brings to it the sort of pace and polish of modern video games. We're super excited for it. We just released our second set, Omens of the Past. We are expanded into phones and tablets recently, and now the game is growing internationally with partnerships and distribution happening around the world. Really exciting time there. The other thing I would say keep an eye on is Lotus. Yeah. We're doing a phone and tablet adaptation of another Renegade game title, Lotus, which is this really beautiful sort of meditative game where you cultivate flowers in a lotus garden in order to achieve enlightenment. But of course, along the way, other people are trying to steal the flowers that you're growing. Yeah. So you have to be very tactically sound in the decisions you make as how you grow your flowers, which flowers you try to take over from other players, and how you defend your own. So it's not all hunky-dory in the Lotus Garden, but it is a lot of fun.
I've seen quite a bit of it. It looks beautiful, first and foremost.
Thanks.
So thank you very much for meeting with me, and I'll see you guys next time in the Quarantine.
Great. Have a great time.